What is going on, EoP sports fans? Welcome in. It's Wednesday night. It's 8:30. It's time for EoP. I'm Big Al.
And I'm Joe Sheeran.
And Fred is off for the night, but don't worry. He's here in spirit. We might even see him here in the messenger, I'm sure, occasionally. But, guys, we have a lot to cover. The Phightins are fighting again, for sure.
Woo!
And the NFL week is about to kick off with the Thursday night game and then Friday night game. You heard that right. Eagles-Packers Friday night. Live from Brazil. We'll get into that as well as time goes on. But let's start with your fighting Phillies. And let's just remember to thank our sponsors over at cherryinjurylaw.com, sherrystickets.com, phillysportstrips.com, and Dolan's Bar. The Phillies, like Joe, I just said just a few moments ago, they're fighting. This team, a lot of people started to write this team off. A lot of people started to feel a bit, which, listen, I'm not saying you should have wrote the team off, but to be upset with them, to be nervous the way they were playing, it makes sense. What is your thought? What was the resurgence and why?
I think once they officially got into September, I think they I don't know if it was just like a mental twist or what may have you, but I just think that they kind of realized that it was like, all right, like we're getting closer to playoff time. Do we want home field advantage or do we want to play in a wild card? So I think that this finally got their asses in gear. And, we're starting to see some guys put this team on their back, and I'm sure we'll bring his name up. I don't have to right now, but everybody knows what I'm talking about. And other players, they're kind of still trying to figure it out. But ultimately, we've been seeing the resurgence not only on the offensive side of the ball, but the pitching and the bullpen as well. And it's such a weird thing. Like baseball is just such a weird thing when it comes to mentality and just being able to go out there and play 162 games, the wear and tear on the body. Everybody's starting to feel it about now, but maybe that's also what's given them this little bit of an adrenaline rush, that they know that their bodies are starting to feel it more. So they need to be more head checked into everything. And I mean, they're playing some good ball right now, and they're beating some tough teams, i.e. 3 out of 4 from the Braves, going up to Canada, getting in. They said during last night's game that the team got in at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, night prior. So, I mean, it's gut check time. This team's ready. And I want to say another thing. I want to give kudos to the fans, because even though they've had this, month and a half, 2 months, whatever it may be, kind of downfall, you're seeing every single seat packed again. And it is right now a playoff atmosphere. And I think that means so much to the actual players that they're going out and they're getting ready for what's about to come October.
Absolutely. Adam, checking in. Adam, what's going on, man? Go Birds, go Phils. Absolutely. Schwarber's playing unbelievable and is on fire. Yeah, I mean, let's bring it up real quick, Joe. Kyle Schwarber,
of course,
I want to say carrying this team, but really between him, maybe Nick Castellanos have been the two big boppers lately. Even Bryson Stott has been hitting better. What Kyle Schwarber's done, at least over the last 48 hours, has been nothing short of amazing.
Yeah.
So here's how I look at things. Like you said, I give the fans going there, supporting their team. Again, they, like you said, it's about like 8 weeks, even maybe a little longer, of mediocre or worse baseball. But luckily, this team did build up the lead that it had that allowed them. They never really fought a first place in the division at the very least. So. And again, I hate the term, this team's built for the postseason. I hate the term this is baseball. That's baseball. But yet I find myself falling into that trap a little bit because baseball is streaky. Players are streaky. And you kind of alluded to it a little bit there with the injuries and guys not being 100%. I mean, Alec Boehm, let's just take him for instance. They said he was going to be out for a couple nights probably. Now it's 5 games he's been out. I don't think he's that injured that he needs to be out 5 games. But I think they're giving him, hey, listen, he was probably the one who was having the hardest time getting back on track as of right now. So let's give him some time. Let Sosa play. Let Cody Clemens, since he's up. And they've been doing a great job, by the way. It almost feels like April and May again. Next man up mentality. If guys go down, even for a few days, if you rest, just because you put Cody Clemens in, because you put Amondo Sosa in, doesn't mean this game's kind of like a gimme game. At times it felt like that over the last couple months, but this team has just that same feel again. Do you agree? Disagree?
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree, especially on the Alec Bohm injury thing. I think a game or two, that was probably the max he really needed. I think I look at this as almost like a Ranger Suarez thing, who, in my opinion, yes, was injured, needed to be on the IL, probably not for as long as he was. I think that they looked at the innings that he was used to pitching prior years and how he was already sneaking up to that, right after the All-Star break. This team leads the league in starting pitchers going at least 7. I think today it was like number 32. So Ranger was already sneaking up to his max innings pitched in an entire season. So I think that they saw what they could do, putting the back injury, putting at the forefront of things, giving them some time, keeping them out even longer, knowing where this team is going to be going September into October, so they can kind of regulate his innings. It's been a little bit harder for him to get ramped back up, his last couple of starts, but I think he'll be fine going into, the later part of the month and so on and so on. Alec Bohm, I think kind of the same thing. This guy was so hot and then not. And I think that they're giving him a little extra time too, because you have to remember, they were talking about putting Trey Turner in like left field just so Amanda Sosa could be on the field and his back can stay in the lineup. So as long as Sosa's in the lineup, producing on the field, producing at the plate, that gives them the extra time to give Alec Bohm, knowing that you have the backup in Sosa that you want to keep in the lineup regardless. Cody Clemens coming up, he's been playing very well. It's because of the extended roster. But I think with Cody being up here, this gives them just the most perfect timing, especially with Bryce getting hit today in the elbow or close to the elbow. Put him on a little bit of a 10-day IL or something. This guy has to be ready for the playoffs. They cannot screw this up now. Continue, and I'm sure it's Harper's pride and ego saying, no, I'm going out, I'm playing. But, listen, you got to put the team first. And if you need a little bit of a break, let the team give you that break. Put Cody Clemens at first base. As long as he's producing at first and at the plate, there's no need to even rush Bryce back if you do put him on an IL for 10, 15, whatever it may be. Give these guys some rest and let the backups eat, feast, as people say.
Adam's asking, do you guys think Harper and Cassie should have time off to heal for the playoffs? Honestly, I'll answer first. I think they all need a little time. Maybe younger guys like Bryson Stott could probably get away with it a little bit more. But ultimately, I would like to see them all get a game here and there. I'm not saying a week off or 5 games off, but a game here and there, Adam. Kind of this Bryce Harper thing. Now, he got hit in the elbow. Hopefully they get the x-rays and MRIs and everything comes back normally. And it's just, they were literally showing video clips of him struggling swinging the night before, and you can see it in his hand and wrist. And then he gets bopped on the other elbow, the opposite elbow, as they're ending the clip. It's like they kind of jinxed him a little bit. If it's not a big deal, maybe just a little bit of a bruise or a soreness, it's only would need a couple days to rest. Maybe this is kind of a plus that they need to get a guy like you said, Joe, kind of a Bryce Harper who wants to compete, who constantly wants to be out there, and give him the break that maybe he wouldn't normally take, or maybe Topper wouldn't normally feel obligated to push him to take. James, how you doing, buddy?
What's up, dude? Yeah, I definitely think, like I just mentioned, I think Harper needs to sit down for a little bit. And this is coming from like his number one fan ever. But still, this guy has to be ready for the postseason. And if they screw this up, if they fumble it now, and he gets even more injured, and he has to be on a 30-day IL if they're even playing in the next 30 days. I mean, this is something that they just cannot do. When it comes to Castellanos, the guy has to play. He has played more than anybody on the Phillies. He is an Iron Man when it comes to the day in, day out routine and grind of it all. That's what he wants to do. And it even worries me more if you give him time off, he's not going to come back and be as hot at the plate as he has been. He is one of the guys, even in the stretch of a month and a half, whatever it may be, he is the one constant that was in that lineup and making solid, ball to bat contact. And I worry if you take him out for some time, you might lose that.
Yeah, it's Kevin's kind of alluding a little bit to parts of this. I think time off is good for the players, helping them mentally and not as much physically. There's kind of a balance to this. We've talked about not having that bye or that not having a wild card game to play and how that can throw teams off. I mean,
Sure.
The Braves have showed that a couple of years in a row. There's been, a lot of teams who have had this first no wild card game, and they weren't, they came out flat. So there's something to be said about time off, but I think if it's staggered correctly, it can be worked better. Like again, a game or two here and there sprinkled in, like just like you would do with a catcher, right? Every third game or the end of the series game, you would give them the day
Yeah.
off. So why not, every third game let Amundo Sosa play third and give Alec Bowman night off, and then maybe every third game let Amundo Sosa play for Bryson Stott. Let Bryce Harper take a day off here and there. I know you don't want them to lose their mojo, their sync that they're in, but it's like, but you got to be very careful. And certain guys might not take too kindly to that. So maybe Nick Castellanos is that wave you have to ride, and other guys can take a moment.
If I'm being 100% honest with you, I am fine if they don't get the bye. We have seen, even with this on paper best roster in baseball the past couple of years, we've seen them come out after a week off with the All-Star break and completely S the bed. And I guess there is a little bit of proof. I mean, the Braves fans aren't too far off. The past 2 years when the Phillies have beat them is because the Phillies have gotten in as a wild card and they had to play that series. And they also came home in the second part of the series to play in front of their fans with that atmosphere and win, more times than not in Philadelphia. So I'm actually pretty damn confident in this team coming out of the wild card because I think they need it more than anything. I don't think that they need that time off. In fact, I think it could hurt more than help.
Susan here, I'm not going to try to say your last name, says if Bohm comes back tomorrow, I'm sure Harper will sit. Bohm at first, Clemens at third, but you don't even have to do that. You got Sosa. Sosa
Right.
can play. You give them both the day off. I really think there is no reason Bryce Harper should play tomorrow. I don't care if
As
he wakes
long
up.
as sorry, not to cut you off, but as long as they're winning, there's no reason to put these guys on the field at the present moment if they're injured.
And for those who are joining us, they did sweep in this 2-game series in Toronto, took both games. I think literally what you take away from last night is they still, have problems with runners in scoring position. That's not something you can look past. I mean, they were like 3 for 20 or something last night.
It was awful.
It was like something ridiculous, but yet they're still coming back. They were down 6-1 in a time where, fine, just take the loss. We'll come to fight another day. We're still sitting pretty right now. We don't have to push it. They still down 6-1 in the first inning. Tyler Phillips needs to go back down and just take the rest of the year, pitch down there, and maybe come back next year in the bigs. But we'll see. But just take their time. There's just no reason to rush. But they said, "Now we got this," and they're winning. I mean, now granted, if you're letting runners in scoring position go against better teams than the meandering Toronto Blue Jays, you probably wouldn't get away with it as much, but that's okay. Good teams beat bad teams. I always say that. What good teams do is they beat bad teams, and that's what they did last night. But like I said, I think the biggest takeaway from it is that was a reason that team should have rolled over and not cared about that game and just lived to fight another day. Should have kicked in, but they didn't, and that's amazing.
Yeah, and I think that kind of continues and piggybacks off what I was saying. Like it's September, they want to go into the playoffs hot, showing the team that they are, that they're resilient, that they fight. That's what they're called. They're the Phightins. I think last night was the perfect thing. But to your point about the runners in scoring position, it was absolutely pathetic. I mean, they scored 10 runs and they still were like 3 or 4, out of 18, 19, 20 runners in scoring position. I mean, if it wasn't for Kyle Schwarber, we could just be, as truthful as we can be. They would have gotten smoked if it wasn't for Kyle Schwarber. So, I mean, if it wasn't for him, it was a kind of a lay down and die type of performance.
Yeah, and again, that's one of the pluses with this team. If there's so many areas you can get beat up by the Phillies that it only takes one guy to win it all. And like I said, the progression of that game is pretty crazy. Um, Down 6-1. You know, he scores that first home run in the first inning, and then Tyler Phillips just completely blows it in the top half or second half of the first inning, and now it's 6-1. All right, well they fight back. It's 6-4 now. Okay, so here comes Taijuan Walker because like after Tyler Phillips kind of wasn't doing that well, people are like, well, maybe we want Taijuan Walker back, and Taijuan Walker comes out and says, no, you don't. And that's what happened. Now we're down 8-4. Now we're down 4 runs again. It's like, this is just like that game that just keeps getting away from us. And then they keep chipping out, chipping away. They should have been up 10-8 by the 7th inning. You know, way before Kyle Schwarber had to be heroic.
Yeah.
But that's the runners in scoring position problem.
Well, they should have been up like 15 runs if we're looking at it like that.
Yeah, I mean, even if like I said, I think it was like 3 for 20. So even if you get 50%, you know, it's 10 for 20. That's another 7 runs they have unaccounted for. So, but that's what happens when this team is good. So, you know, you're not going to get away with that in the playoffs. But you know, this is where they have to they still have a lot of stuff to work on. But like you said, and I've been talking about, I think rest is paramount for this team. And like I said, doesn't have to be days, doesn't have to be weeks. It's just a day sprinkled in here and there to get them. Because, and if you think about it, it's kind of how the playoff system's set up. You really don't get back-to-back games too often in the playoffs. So why not have a day off here and there? Because it's going to be like that when you hit the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if they're doing things differently this day, but I actually looked at the postseason schedule today because I get to buy my postseason games tomorrow and Friday. And yeah, the wild card games I think are all 3 days in a row. And then the first 2 games of the NLDS are back to back, October 5th and 6th. And then there's a day off, and then I guess a travel day, and then and whatever. But yeah, I think it's more the NLCS and the World Series that games aren't back to back.
Well, what I mean is like you get a back-to-back game here and there, but there's usually not as many once you hit the playoffs because, I mean, with a wild card game, if you're in that, is that back-to-back? Is there a night off in between? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, no, it's back-to-back. Oh, actually, it should be. It should be.
I believe it is. But then, like you said, the NLDS, you might have a back-to-back, then you're off, and then...
No, it is. It is.
Yeah, then it's off, on, off, on, off, on. But my point is, there's no reason that you can't do it. They're going to be doing it anyway. Adam's sitting there saying, you know, pretty much what everybody else is feeling. Walker needs not to pitch at all. I think right now, Adam, Walker's in that bullpen in case they need him. He's a break in case of emergency. I mean, they probably were throwing in the white flag a little bit at that point when they put him in there. They said, well, we don't want to waste one of our good pen guys, so let's just, you know, let him go out there and see if he can not screw things up. Well, hold my beer, said Taijuan Walker, and that's what happened.
Yeah, there's 2 things when it comes to the whole Walker thing. Number one, it's kind of a blessing that he gave up that 2-run homer because we could be talking differently about him right now, saying like, oh, maybe it was just like the pressure of starting. Maybe he can be reliable coming out of the pen. Well, we saw the 2-run home run, and now we're not talking about that. So since they won, it's kind of a blessing that happened. But there is one of the things where you saw the 2-run homer happen. And then you saw Taijuan and Topper talking out in the dugout, and like even they alluded to it on the broadcast. They were kind of saying like Topper probably went up to him and said, "Hey, you know, because of the differential in the score, I think it was 8-4 at that point. He was like kind of asking, but like, hey, just go out there, eat up some innings, and then like, you know, consensually just waving the white flag. But then they continued to just chip away, and they ended up winning that game. And if you think about it, Schwarber had 6 RBIs. He scored 4 runs. So the 4th run, so the 3rd of his 4th runs, he scored on his double. So there was only 3 runs out of 10 that Kyle Schwarber was not involved in last night. They would have, if he would have had a blanket game, it would have been 9-3.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's unbelievable. Joe, you were just alluding, like, you know, tomorrow you're getting your playoff tickets, right?
Yeah.
And playoff tickets are hard to get, and if you're not like Joe, who has the in, because who says no to Joe Sheeran? you got to go, and you got to go to Sherry's Tickets. Like they're going to be sold out. These we all know what Red October is like in Philadelphia. Sherry's Tickets is your cure for those worries. Go to sherrystickets.com for sports, concerts, theaters, you name it, they got it. I know Adam's in the chat still, and I know he uses them often, and he'll tell you, hear it from somebody else who's not us, who will tell you great prices, no hidden fees, and you get to save yourself an additional 10% off using that great promo code EOP10. That's right, EOP10 will save you 10% off at sherrystickets.com. Sports, concerts, theater, you name it, they got it. Even playoff tickets. Hard to get playoff tickets. Phillies playoff tickets. Go to sherrystickets.com. Family owned and operated since 1946. And use that promo code often, EOP10, to save 10% off at sherrystickets.com.
Hell yeah.
So, actually, I figure why we do that. Let me pull this up and see if there's any update here. And it looks like the Mets are just had them up. They just disappeared on me. They are still up 4-3 over the Red Sox, top of the 7th, and the Braves are up 4-2 on the Rockies, top of the 6th right now.
Okay.
And the Cardinals are beating the Brewers 2-0, middle of the 5th inning right now. So, it is scoreboard watching. It is standings watching. Even though we are out of, we are at the top. You're like, you do have to worry where things will swing. And the Brewers are a bit of an issue to worry about because it could be the difference between that first, second, and third spot. Even the Dodgers, I don't even know if they're playing tonight. Let me see. Yes, they are. They are playing tonight at 9:38 against the Angels.
Think of it. The Brew Crew comes into Philly. That's a home game for Reese boy.
Yep, and they play the Mets twice in September, one home, one away game. So they have 7 games against the Mets, and I think that's about what they have in front of them right now is about 6 or 7 games. So if they falter, not that it really would take a lot, but we've seen the Mets do it, so it is possible. So they got to make sure the Mets, the Mets have to help themselves and got to get help from the Phillies too. So don't give anybody any help in my eyes.
Oh, absolutely. The Phillies only have 9 more home games.
Yeah, and only 1 weekend stand against the Mets. I'll be there covering that weekend stand for the Mets.
Nice.
Matt Santialeri is actually going to be taking a Cubs game, and Rock Hoffman also will be taking some games. So we'll have plenty of coverage leading up to the playoffs and into the playoffs as well right here at EoP. Of course, the Phightins final will be bringing you all the post-game coverage, and once we get into the postseason, we will have articles post every game, not just the series. So a lot coming up, a lot of moving parts here at EoP. And as we always say, October is a busy month here at Edge of Philly Sports, if not the busy, especially when the Phillies are good. So stay tuned. Adam saying I'm getting 5 more concert tickets from Sherry's Tickets. Go for it, Adam. Thanks, man. Thank you for the support. Sherry's Tickets appreciates you, and we appreciate that we're able to extend our discount to you. Joe, I mean, is there any worry with the health factor of the Phillies? Are you worried at all about Alec Bohm? Are you worried about Bryce Harper? And if you are, what and why?
Am I worried? I don't know if worry is the right word. Is it in the back of my mind? Sure, because again, Bryce is wearing a compression sleeve. He just got hit in the elbow. Alec Bohm takes a ball off the wrist. I mean, it's like these freak accidents are just continue to come up. Like Austin Hayes is out for I think like an illness or something. It's such a long season, and not that I'm complaining about that. I love every month I have of baseball. I truly do. But you do have to think of the wear and tear of these guys, and we're expecting these guys to be supermen and go into October and just be fully healthy. But we gotta be understanding of it all, and I think that's to the point of what we're saying about giving these guys some rest. I mean, off the top of my head, I want to say to clinch the playoffs is like 15 games. I mean, as you get closer and closer to that, after you clinch, I mean, is that the time Topper kind of gives these guys some days off, but he wants to, get in and make sure first. I don't know how. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm just being a little bit silly about it when I say I don't know how important it is to them to get a bye. I mean, of course, if you can get a bye and rest your body, that's the angle you should be going. But I don't. I mean, you would think that with the amount of time there was where they were playing sub and below 500 baseball, you would think like that would have been where they were thinking, oh, we can eat up these games, clinch earlier, and then rest, later into September. But like, that's not what happened. These guys now have to, bust their ass to get the clinching done, whether it's the division or just a playoff spot in general. And I don't know if the bye is at the forefront or in the back of their mind. I just don't know. But like when you're talking about like the pitching, like there's some time where Sanchez didn't look that great. Now he's had a couple 2-3 starts where he went 7 tonight. His past 2 or 3 have been really good. There's a question mark about Ranger. Goddamn, Zach Wheeler has been your constant. Aaron Nola is right behind him. And then there's, of course, that 5th spot, which is kind of about to go away anyway. Spencer Turnbull hasn't been back. I mean, there are guys that we should be worried about, because if one key piece of this lineup or rotation goes down, I mean, there's going to be question marks all over the place.
So as of right now, let me see, according to the ballsoutahere.com, recently, a couple hours ago, the Phillies magic number for the NL East is 17.
Okay.
The magic number for a playoff berth is 16.
Okay.
All right. So that's where they're at.
I was right there.
Yeah. So that's what you're looking at right now. So for those who don't know what the magic number is, that is a combination of wins and people who's behind you's losses. So, divisional losses for the Mets and the Braves will be the factor here. Steve is saying, I really hope Hayes lengthens the lineup come October. So, Joe, I mean, the couple things that I'm taking into October, which makes me very optimistic about the Phillies. One thing, Kyle Schwarber. Mm-hmm. And not just what we've seen today, Kyle Schwarber. Like this Kyle Schwarber that we've seen in the last 48 hours, just mashing the ball, that's great. We all know Kyle's very capable of that. But the consistent Kyle Schwarber all year long, getting the leadoff walks, getting not just hitting for power and home runs all the time.
Contact.
That
constant
is
contact.
That has been a really kind of godsend, because that's something that's a little different if the Phillies are still in it. That's been a big difference. Steve saying, I really hope Hayes lengthens the lineup come October. I agree with him. I mean, I don't know what October Austin Hayes looks like, but we're going to find out. And I feel a little bit more confident than October Johan Rojas going here with Brandon Marsh. Now, give Johan Rojas his credit. Since he had that small stint back down at the minors and, injuries kind of brought him back up, he's been pretty consistent when he gets his opportunities. And you could pinch hit him, or, you could do a drag bunt. He can do a couple different things. So that is very promising.
But
those are a couple things that makes me feel a little bit more confident this going into this offseason or postseason.
Yeah, I think their depth right now is really solid. I know the question is about Hayes, but we also can't overlook Weston Wilson, who has been playing, either third or I hate him playing third base. If you're going to play him, play him in the outfield.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can't stand him playing third base. I mean, hey, it was his Castellanos got hit last night. He took over and right. Castellanos might have been his first game off all season. Weston Wilson in right. I mean, they have the depth. Cody Clemens has been playing left field with Hayes out. Even Schwarber got in there to play left field tonight for a little bit. So the depth is there when you're talking about Hayes, Sosa, Wilson. Who the hell did I just say? Weston Wilson. Like these guys are there and they are producing. And that's to say why force Bohm and Harper and these other guys to play when they're a bit injured when you have this depth behind it. Austin Hayes, yes, we don't know what we are going to get out of him in the postseason, but that's not an Austin Hayes thing. That's a Baltimore Orioles thing. It's not his fault that we haven't seen him in the postseason. So, he's been a consistent batter. He's been, I guess, above average left fielder. He's going to get more plate time. I think he will stretch out the lineup. To be honest with you.
Like I said, there's a couple things between, like I said, with Kyle Schwarber, him, we're not having to worry about Johan Rojas playing every game. Brandon Marsh was a big part for us last year. He was probably, even in the end, one of the most consistent hitters on this team after everybody else kind of went cold. So that's why I feel a bit more optimistic, because we kind of had a backward season. We started off hot, things cooled off, we got hot again at this moment, and we were able to keep our lead because, there's got to be something to say about the parity of the league. There's a possibility there's no 100-win team this year. So,
yeah, and we thought we were going to be like 120 wins.
Well, yeah, things start off that way, but we all knew that at one point the shoe was going to drop. We were just hoping the shoe wouldn't drop as hard as it did, and as scary as it was for some people. Let's see. Oh, yeah, this is some news that came out today. I had this on my list here. Andrew Painter. He's throwing, and he's throwing well. I think he threw about 15 pitches today against live batters. Very promising. Now, this isn't I'm talking about for the playoffs or anything, but for next year. Maybe they do boot Taijuan Walker, which I still don't think they do.
They should.
They should, but I don't think they do.
I wonder if his contract comes down a little bit in the final season, like enough that it could be unloaded.
He's still got $36 million on there.
Son of a bitch! I thought he only had 1 year left.
Oh no!
After this, what an awful contract.
Kirk has overachieved the most of any Philly this year. Yeah, because he kind of got caught up when the Phillies were really dead, and remember the bullpen went from like tops in the league to bottom in the league in like a 3-4 week span. And no matter who, Strom, Hoffman, him, whoever you threw up there, looked like that's why we all hit the panic button. We're like, whoa, what's going on? Not one thing is going right now. But part of me also, that's why I didn't panic as much internally, because I'm like, they're all doing bad. This whole team looks bad. There's no way this whole team just decided to S the bed at the same time. So it's a slump, team slump. Hopefully you never have to see it again. But Kirk has been, he came up last year with a few weeks left in September, and did well, but got a little shell shocked in the postseason. Now that's the other thing. There's another plus. He's had a taste of it last year. He knows what it's like. And now he can go in the postseason with a little bit of backing. Him, Hoffman, Strom. We'll see what Estevez has. Estevez. Those 5 guys right there, I'm happy with that. That's why you don't have to see Taijuan Walker. You don't have to see Junior Marte. All those guys just go sit in the back and collect a ring, hopefully, at the end. That's all you have to do. But yeah, I have to agree. Orion Kerkering has been a blessing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've been high on him since last year, and to your point, everybody was slumping, and there was no need to. We were all frustrated, and I'm sure we all, kind of pointed a finger here and there, but really it was unnecessary because the entire team should have had fingers pointed at him.
Alvarado too. We haven't seen too much since he's got back. Hopefully, whatever this emotional situation he was dealing with, he never really gave any information. He had to go back to Venezuela. He had to go take care of whatever it is. Maybe it was a loss in the family, maybe something else. We don't know. We don't know. But hopefully, whatever it is, he was able to either make peace with it or get past it, and he can be stellar again. But again, Kev, I don't think I need Alvarado to be my 8th guy. I'm happy with him being the 6 or 7 guy.
I think
with Estevez and Hoffman, those are my 7-8 guys right now. Strom,
let's not forget
6, 7, 8.
Let's not forget Tanner Banks.
Oh yeah, Tanner Banks. Yeah,
Tanner Banks came out last night too in that complete pile of dog crap. First, 5-6 innings of a game, and he came out and he was your long guy. I honestly think that he has been such a bright spot when it came to that trade deadline. And then, of course, Estevez and Hayes. The three guys they picked up have been contributing. We just need Hayes to be back from this illness and be ready to roll. I mean, because he was injured for a bit as well.
Yeah, and listen, a lot of people gave Dombrowski a lot of grief for not making bigger splashes or picking in the right guys. I was okay with the moves, and a lot of these people were the same people going, "Don't trade away the big pieces." Look at Aiden Miller moving up to Double A now. I mean, he's making a lot of waves at 20 years old in the minors. We'll see what he's hitting. He sees ball, hits ball. He's hitting.
I got to bring this up.
Right. What's up?
I understand that he was promoted to Double A, but if you look at his stats, like they promoted him with a 258 batting average. Like I don't understand what is all the smoke around this guy. I don't get it. And because Andrew Painter was brought up, I'm sick of Andrew the Painter's name too.
Well, there's no reason to be. I mean, listen, I understand being like, all right, Andrew Painter, we were so excited, and then of course he has this Tommy John surgery at the beginning before the season even started. But I mean, there's a lot of plus for the future here, and Andrew Painter's only 20 years old, just got drafted recently, last year, and he's
Aiden
already.
Miller.
I mean, Aiden Miller. I'm sorry, Aiden Miller, and has been. Like I said, there's a lot of positives looking towards him. It does nothing for this year, Joe. Absolutely nothing for this year. But
I get it.
The future is bright, and I don't think we left anything really on the table. Like who really
he's being
moved?
promoted, but the big thing is he's being promoted for hitting 258 in Single A. What that tells me absolutely nothing. Well, I don't. What's the promotion? Just because they wanted to say that he made it to Double A in his first season playing, like 258 at Single A is horrible for this number one prospect in a club.
Listen, I think you don't have to look at the batting average as much. It's his power, it's his ability. I think you have to look at the whole picture. You have to see the whole thing. Don't just look at the batting average to see. And I think they want to see him how he's going to fare against better pitching, and he's kind of done it. He's been low A, now he's in Double A. Like I'm saying, like there's a lot of positives around him, but I'm not even worried about him right now. I'm not worried about him even for next year. What I'm worried about is the Phillies. But like I said, the positives are the ceiling is very high for that young man right now. And Andrew Painter. There's a guy that if we all were really high on him this year, thought he could be a 4 or 5 guy, but have 3 guy stuff, maybe 2 guy stuff. We don't know. He was young, but he's already healing. He's already throwing 99, as Steve said earlier. It's all against live pitching, and it's still in this season. Gives you a lot of hope looking for next season. But like I said, Joe, like I'm really happy with how the Phillies handled the trade deadline. I don't think they left anything on. I don't think they left anything on the table. Like I said, I wanted Randy Arozarena, but he hasn't really been doing much. But he's also in Seattle, so they're kind of flailing right now. But outside of that, I really don't think there was anybody really moved. I'm like they should have, and we saw a package of like they could have matched that or done better or something like that. I really think they got really good pieces without giving like pretty much to get Austin Hayes here. They just said, here's some guys we don't want to use. Give us a guy you're not going to use. Like, you're not using them. We're not using them. Here you go. Let's just trade for it. And that's how they handled that. They gave up a couple decent prospects for Estevez, and we'll see where that pans out. But I mean, as far as I'm considered, I'm happy with who they brought in without having to sell the farm and shake up the whole organization.
Yeah, and not you have to remember the addition by subtraction as well, because for these pieces that they brought in, they got rid of Sir Anthony, who the project was over with, and Gregory Soto, who absolutely stinks. And what they brought in Seth Johnson from the Orioles, their number 8 prospect in their farm club, who is predicted, much like an Andrew Painter, to be a real solid starting guy in X years to come.
So remember, Kevin said, remember in 2008, we got J.C. Romero after he was released by the Sox. Absolutely. I mean, there's always those guys who you get a second chance, change the scenery. who just do well, and maybe they're stuck in a bad run, or maybe didn't have a good pitching coach or good batting coach that didn't work with them. All those things play in. Miller played higher than average. He is not uncommon for a second year minor league to trip up for the first time in high A, but he brought it together. So yeah, I mean, Miller is definitely something to keep your eye on as a Philly of the future, like an Alec Boehm or a guy that definitely could be wearing Phillies pinstripes and be a household name at one point, but probably not for a couple of years. Yeah, 2027, Crawford 2026. Yeah, I mean, I said if Bryson Stott didn't get his stuff together, maybe Crawford might be like, you guys, you get out of the way, here I come. But we'll worry about that when that time comes. Guys, remind you that this episode of EoP Live is brought to you by CherryInjuryLaw.com. That's right, CherryInjuryLaw.com. David R. Cherry's a man with a plan. Call Dave Cherry at 610-565-0300 or go to CherryInjuryLaw.com. Workers' comp, motor vehicle, personal injury, criminal law, all life-changing moments, life-altering times, and you need the best lawyer. The guy who's always going to hit a home run when he's up to the plate for you. And David R. Cherry is that man. 610-565-0300 or go to CherryInjuryLaw.com and tell Dave Cherry that EoP sent you. I'm sure we'll see some cherry bombs in the comments sooner rather than later. But Joe, the other big thing that people are super jacked up all about, and I'll put them on the bottom here, Philly sports trips. They are in Brazil right now, Joe. We've been talking about it. We see our boy Jamie, Philly sports guy, running in and out of the ocean, constantly with his shirt off, but face painted green. I don't know if he just if he used permanent marker finally just to live it out. But
I was wondering about the paint myself.
But it felt like it's taken forever. It felt like the Eagles season would never start. Joe, number one, I'm going to say something that maybe a lot of people would or would not agree with. Maybe it's an unpopular opinion. I don't care for Brazil, like playing in Brazil. Really don't want my team down there. Just too many things I hear, too many things going on. And you taking a home game away. At first, I was okay with it. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Brazil would be fun to go to. If I want to go to Brazil, I'm going to go to Brazil. I want to go to watch the Eagles. I don't want to go to Brazil to do it. I'm a little over the Brazil thing already.
I'm certainly over it. I thought it was pretty dumb to begin with. Not only because it takes away a home game, but just because of the outside noise of everything. And listen, I don't know what's going on in Brazil. I don't know their crime rate. I don't know, I don't know anything about Brazil other than it's a place. But when you hear the players coming out, yeah, it's a place. When you hear the players coming out saying like, are you excited to play in Brazil? Oh, no comment. Or we're going to line up. We're going to play football. You hear Slay on his podcast saying he doesn't want to be there. He told his family not to come. I mean, they're being told, not to wear green, not to kind of go out and do everything. And a majority of these guys, like it's Slay, it's BG, it's AJ Brown, it's Devontae Smith. They're all kind of saying like they're staying in their room. Like they just left today. Like they don't want to be there any longer than they have to be. So when you're having that type of reaction and concern from the players, that's got to tell something to the NFL. Like I guess it's too like even when they were talking about the wildfires and the air and everything that's going on down there, I was probably a little too soon to kind of try and work it backwards and figure out a neutral spot or bring it to Philadelphia, especially with the travel and the economy and everything that the NFL and it's been going on in Brazil. I understand that they kind of can't pull out of it, but this has to be something that they go in and take into consideration for years to come, that maybe Brazil isn't the best place. And maybe number two, don't start the season off with it there.
Yeah, the whole start of the season off there is really kind of the head shaker part of it too. Kevin saying, I agree. I'm tired of the whole idea of growing the game, playing around the world. I'm not against other areas, and I'm sure South America, Brazil is a very untapped resource for the NFL to try to get there, but they've also still made it really hard for them to get tickets. So unless people are traveling there to go to it, local Brazilians aren't getting in there. The whole color thing is not as pumped up as they said it was.
Yeah.
But and not even just the crime rate. I mean, listen, we're in Philadelphia. The crime rate pretty bad, some of the worst in the country at times. You're surrounded by Camden, New Jersey, Chester and Delco here, all the other not so like stuff that parts of Pennsylvania that are some of the highest crime rates in the country and worse. But it's like you said, Joe, the wildfires, the traveling, the first game of the season. I mean, but people being taken advantage of from worried about text messages, kidnapping's a big thing now. Kind of made some jokes early on football stories saying like, what about somebody kidnaps Jordan Mailata? Doubtful that's going to happen. But it's not the easier said than done. But my point is like, we've just been talking about it so much. I want this team to win. I want this team to kind of get back to its winning ways. I want to have that 2022 feeling again, and of course that 2017 feeling again. I don't know. It just seems like an unnecessary step and just all convoluted. And like you said, a lot of the players don't like it, and that's all I need is my players to be uncomfortable first game of the season.
Yeah, I mean, Philly Sports Trips has been there a week longer than the actual players have been. I mean, Vince and Philly Sports Trips have really put together this extended trip to go out to another country. If I'm right that it's a country. Again, I only know that it's a place, and they bang the drums. Yeah, I mean,
bang the drums,
and they bang the drums,
and they bang. Welcome to Joe's history class or geography class.
I mean, Nick Sirianni, even he's like, no, this is a business trip. Like, we're not going down. Saquon Barkley said it the other day. He said, if you want to go see Brazil, go in the off season. We get paid a lot of money to go and do these elaborate things that we want to do, not during the football season. They're not going out in seeing. They're going in, they're playing a football game, and they're getting the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah. Listen, and I love that they're having that mentality because you could really get lost in Brazil very easily and outside of being kidnapped and all that stuff. But, I'm glad that they're having that mentality. This isn't a pleasure trip. And they're told, don't bring your family. They don't need extra distractions. What about something happens to their wife or their kids while they're down there? Of course. I'm glad that they're taking this mentality. Marshawn jumping in here. Devin White thing is all hella weird.
What is that?
His injury.
It's so weird. I know that. Like a phantom ankle injury. Like, I don't know. It's really weird that it came out today. Were they waiting to the last moment to see if he can, take the trip? Is Devin White okay with just being like, okay, I'll sit back? Like, why not even just go on the trip?
Yeah. Well, first part, they're probably not going to take him if he ain't going to play because it's costly. And so I wonder, like, there is some medical thing if he is having swelling in his ankle and they feel like he's just not going to play. Traveling in the air for 10 hours can not be helpful, but it is weird. And maybe there's there's a lot of things coming out of camp that he really didn't win that position either. That Nakobe Dean has really been the outright guy who's been winning the position. So, maybe they're just like, listen, he's got a little bit of an ankle injury. It's not worth traveling. He's probably not going to play too much. Just let him stay home and heal up and have him ready for the next week.
Nakobe, Trotter, and Zach. I guess those are the top three.
Yeah. Young guys really getting their chance to shine.
I know last year when Nakobe was on the field before he got injured, he had the green dot. So, is that the type of role he's going to be in going forward?
They're really high on him, and is it because they want him to work, or do they think he's going to work? Was it just the fact he couldn't stay healthy enough to progress? I really like Nakobe Dean coming in here. I know a lot of people talk about his size. They talk about Trotter's size. I love Marshawn here. Don't let your wife stop you from finding your Brazilian girlfriend. But the days of the body type of your typical linebacker isn't what it used to be. They're shorter, speedier guys, bowling ball type guys, and that's just kind of the way the world's going. So I'm not worried about size and all that stuff. I'm worried about ability. Do they have the ability? Can they do it? And things are kind of pointing out early on that they are. We'll find out when they get that test. Frankie jumping in here.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see what they come out with. I mean, there's a handful of guys I really want to see who can go out there and or go out and see what they can do at full speed. Nolan Smith being one of them, Nakobe Dean, of course, Quinyon Mitchell, of course. I mean, I guess Cooper DeJean's still what? He's going to be out the first 4 weeks or something.
I don't know. I mean, he was practicing, so I don't know what's going on with
Yeah.
him. Frankie James in there. If all else fails, go Flyers. That's right. Honestly, them Georgia boys are on the clock. I mean, if I'm understanding what you're saying, Marshawn, you're right. Like, there's been a lot of puffing your chest out about how great these Georgia boys are. Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Nakobe Dean, all these guys. Keely Ringo, Nolan Smith. I mean, these are all guys that we've heard nothing about, but them Georgia Dogs and all that stuff. And not that they haven't been great at times, but we need to see a consistent game plan from them. So I agree with them. They are on the clock, and we got to see what they got. Size doesn't matter. It's right. It's what I tell my wife.
Shut up. That's as far we'll go into that.
Let's see. Davis, Dean, Nolan on bust watch. Are we question marking this, or are we actually? What do you think, Joe? Are either any of these guys on bust watch in your eyes?
I don't know if I would say bust. I mean, I guess the only person you can kind of question that with is Nakobe Dean, just because. I mean, this is his third season. I mean, I think it's definitely put up or shut up. I think this is the last real chance he'll get as excuse me, not only as a starter, but like I just mentioned, like having the green dot, being the QB of that defense. I mean, they kind of are putting all their balls into a basket with him. Like if he doesn't pan out the way that they want and think he can, like it's back to the drawing board, and they got to figure out what to do because Nakobe Dean is not going to be the answer there.
Yeah, no. I would say if you had to pick one of the three, Dean, I don't know if you're going to put bust because of more injuries, but Nolan, I mean, here's a guy that looked good early on in the preseason. And later on in the preseason, he was getting snaps in that third game that kind of like, really? Like you haven't seen enough from him yet that you feel like, and he really wasn't doing great against third and fourth stringers. So that's a big thing there. But yeah, I mean, I don't know about bus watch, but so much, things could be interesting. All right, here we go. We got our first Packers fan. Go Pack Go. So Turtles. I mean, here, so Turtles. I'll ask you, give you a chance to answer back. I mean, in all honesty, how do you see this game going? Like, give me your prediction. Like, I don't just try our best not to be homers when we're looking at these things. So, where do you feel as a Packers fan? We'll get back to him and let him answer that question. No question mark. Imagine how he finally went big school hunting and he picks a bad batch. I mean, that's always been kind of Howie's thing is about his drafting capabilities of picking out quality players. And, he finally goes to big school hunting. And if he did that, it's like, are we snake bitten? Like, what's going on? Like, Joe, is that a worry for you?
No, not really, because I think with that logic, you would have to say that when he went, the Alabama route, that he struck out there as well. And Landon Dickerson is the best left guard in the game. Devontae Smith is the best, 1B receiver in the game. So, like, there have been times where Howie has absolutely nailed these draft picks from the bigger, echelon of SEC championship teams. I think it's more of a spotlight on the Georgia boys because he really went over the top with the Georgia boys. I mean, there's like 6, 7, 8 Georgia players from 2 drafts that are on this team right now. So I think that's why they're more of the spotlight when it comes to that. But Howie has been going, bigger school drafting over the past 3-4 years.
Howie has more luck with Bama than Georgia. Sure, absolutely. Hey guys, the trolls need to get off here. Laugh out loud, go Birds. Brian, you know what? I don't mind the trolls.
I'm all right with it.
If you're, that's why I ask you questions. And so Turtles did answer. So let's see what his answer is. I see this being a high-scoring game.
All right, that's enough.
Yeah, he's drunk. No, these cheeseheads, right? Our defense will be playing super
D
aggressive.
heads.
Cheeseheads.
Yeah, I
Uh,
said D heads.
okay, you're okay. Hopefully, we generate a turnover, and that becomes the key to us winning. I disagree. I don't think this will be a high scoring game. If I'm going to give you my early prediction, I'm looking at like a three 3-point swing here, 24-21 at most. I really don't see this being a super high scoring game because most teams start off like that first half is like 10-7, 10-3, something like that. So I don't expect to see this high score. I expect some time to see both teams getting a little bit used to their new situations. But I know a lot of people think it's going to take a little time for people to get used to the Vic Fangio defense, and they're not 100% there just yet. I honestly think the Vic Fangio defense will be the difference in this, and I believe the Eagles' offense will be a little different. And I'm going to swing that 3 points towards the Eagles in this case.
Yeah, I know. I was very not feeling the Eagles' way in this game. Early on, especially when the schedule came out. But when I look at these two teams, and maybe this is the mistake, but I'm looking at firepower, and I'm talking both sides of the ball. I mean, when you look at the Packers' offensive side, I know they got Josh Jacobs, but do they really have that great of an offensive line right now that he's gonna, just be able to absolutely slash up the Eagles? I don't think so. When it comes to who Jordan Love is throwing to, I don't see it. I'm not worried of Romeo Dowds or their tight end Musgrave or I'm not saying Jordan Love isn't going to have his moments in the game because he is. I actually think he's a really good quarterback, and we saw what he did last year, and he can absolutely produce on that field. But when I'm looking at the Eagles and especially their offensive side of the ball, you have arguably the best offensive line right there, and I'm just going to start with that. And then knowing who is coming out of that, and I'm taking Jalen Hurts even out of the picture right now. You have Saquon Barkley, who's going to come out and try and make a name for himself behind the best offensive line in the game. I mean, I think he's going to have a huge game, and then you throw the mix. And again, I'm taking Jalen out of it. You throw in the mix of even just a Goddard or a Johan Dotson, who's going to make his first appearance with the Eagles. Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown. Now I'll name who is throwing it to those monsters of a wide out core. I mean, I don't see now, and I know I'm doing complete 180 here on how I felt about it before. I just don't see how the Eagles lose this game, and it's probably a mistake on how I'm feeling about it now. I don't know. Talk me off the ledge here, thinking the Eagles are going to win.
Well, Kevin's saying I think most Eagles fans think the offense will be solid, but the defense scares us. I'm more worried the other way around, to be honest with you. Call me crazy. I still think there's a lot of moving parts. The offensive line, your center, and being part and partial to the center position, they literally are the center of your universe when it comes to offense. So there's always that little worry. See how they work out there. I'm not worried about Saquon. I'm not worried about A.J. Brown. I'm worried about Devontae Smith, even Dallas Goedert. I'm not worried about those guys. I'm not even worried about Jalen Hurts. I'm just worried to see how there's cohesion between those kind of, with the O line and everything. So I really think there'll be some rust and some mistakes made in the beginning. But I think the defense will actually be more solid in the first game, in my eyes, than most people are really giving them credit for. So that's why I think they'll be able to keep them in it a little bit, better than most people think it will. Marshawn saying I used to.
I am so freaking high on this secondary that they have right now. Slay Rogers, Quinyon Mitchell, CJ GJ, Reed Blankenship. Like, I am so high on this secondary. In my eyes, this might be the best secondary the Eagles have ever had.
Possibly. I mean, Joe, in a long time at least, and a very long time, depending on if they all pan out to what we think they could be. Marshawn said, I used to love primetime Eagles games. I hate it now, especially after last season.
Yeah.
Start to show your age a little bit, Marshawn, when we started talking about hating primetime games. I mean, I'm the same way.
Being old.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I love these 1:00 games, knowing I can still get work done. I can go out and do stuff. I can enjoy the game. Even a 4:00 game. So I know, like, I'm not getting done watching the game at 11. There's always that plus. I mean, I really don't count this as a normal primetime game because it's on a Friday night, but that is annoying to me too. That Friday night, like, just get home from work on a Friday. I'm winding down for the weekend. I'm tired. I like to put my head back and just relax. can't really do that with the Eagles game on a Friday night. But I agree with you. So Turtle says our receivers aren't household names yet, but they literally are borderline ones in the making. Watson, Dobbs, Reed,
I
Wicks.
like Christian Watson. I do.
Yeah, each can drop 100 any Sunday. I agree with you. I think you guys wide receivers are underrated in some way. Your core could be good. Here's my thing with Jordan Love, and I'm not putting anything past Jordan Love, but he had about a 6-game run plus into the playoffs. He looked really good. He went up against the Dallas Cowboys, who
Suck.
just they fall apart. So take that for what it is. I'm not saying Jordan Love can't be a great quarterback. I think he has the makings of a great quarterback, and of course he's playing for Green Bay. They always just seem to find these guys like they have like a blueprint that nobody else knows about. But if take the reverse, Joe, for a second, if this happened with our rookie quarterback, came off slow, pretty much looked like the season was going to be over. Thanksgiving they win and they go on this tear and they make a nice tear into the playoffs. They show us a lot more than we really expected from them. I mean, would you be expecting them to pay him this year to do all this stuff? Like, I'm not ready to papal blessing Jordan Love yet, like a lot of other people are. Like, give the guy a whole season of consistency before I really get there. And I think, to be honest with you, even though it was kind of the opposite this last year for Eagles and Green Bay, started off bad, got on real hot, versus the Eagles starting off real hot and just burnt, crashing and burning. I honestly think that Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers have a lot more pressure on them coming out and starting off hotter than the Philadelphia Eagles do. Just my personal opinion. That's how I think. Like I don't know how we're giving this guy the papal blessing already. That's all.
Yeah, I think you bring up an interesting question and topic. Like, I do think the guy's going to be good. I do. I don't know if he has the guys around him. And I mean, kind of to that Packers fans, point. Like these guys have the potential to be really good wide receivers, and I actually completely agree with that. I like Christian Watson. I actually wanted the Eagles to draft him a couple drafts ago, and Romeo Doubs, however you say his last name, I actually thought he was going to be a bigger threat last year. So I absolutely know that these guys have the potential to be there. And Jordan Love being the one throwing the ball, I mean, yes, there are potential. These are young guys, young players who are going to grow together within their system. And can they one day be a real contender? Absolutely. But based off of what I saw last year, I know that Jordan Love is good. I don't know if he's great. He had the run. Is it contract time? Absolutely not. I mean, even look at the Jalen Hurts. Like he came in and he got a contract after he went to a Super Bowl appearance. That was really looked at league wide as one of the best quarterback performances in all of Super Bowl era history. It was just Patrick Mahomes got the better of him on that last drive, the stupid James Bradbury thing. But that's besides the point. Like the Packers, they're going to be a good team. They're a young team who, in X amount of years, are really going to probably be doing something. But I don't think it's going to be this. I don't think it's going to be this season. But I understand exactly why Packers fans are optimistic and excited for the start of this season because of what they saw last year. If the Eagles, like you were saying, if the Eagles had that type of performance, they started off slow, last 6 to 8 games going into playoffs, they get hot, they make it to the second round with beating Dallas in the first round. Like I'd be so jacked up for Friday night's game. I don't know how they can win on Friday though, but I think that they're going to be a really good team this season.
Kevin say Joe is literally high liking this secondary. Laugh out loud. This is the team that collapsed last year. But Kev, I'll come to Joe's defense and I'll say this. You can't base anything off of last year, especially the last half. And second of all, Bradbury has already his phantom injury. We all knew was coming as quickly as it did. I did not think so. But it came real quick. But outside of Slay, I mean, you have a whole new secondary.
Yes. What are you talking? Like, yeah, it's Slay from last season. Rogers was suspended. Quinyon Mitchell was just drafted. CJ was with the Lions. Reed Blankenship was injured at the end of the season. It's a complete different squad.
Yeah, it is. It's completely different. Different coach, different scheme, everything. They have young talent that has a high ceiling, and that's why you could be high on this secondary, and I'm okay with that. James Bradbury will never see the field unless we have just gone through every player just got injured, and at that point, we're the Walking Dead anyway.
They timed it out perfect to where he can return right around the trade deadline, and somebody who has a need at corner, or I guess even safety, will be paying some compensation for a James Bradbury.
Marshawn saying 1 p.m. games are the best. You have time to celebrate or be pissed off. Oh, believe me, there's been 4:30. I'm sitting there angry typing out an article. I've been there, Marshawn. Trust me. A couple keyboards. Well, I do worry about Goddard and Saquon and hoping both can stay healthy. Yeah, but we said the same thing about DeAndre Swift. And he stayed pretty healthy for the most part last year. I get the worry. You got to worry about anybody getting injured, but I get it, Mike. I do. Packers lost Jones to the Vikings in free agency and just lost their other starting running back to injury recently.
Dillon.
Yeah. So Turtle's saying the narrative of Love playing only good in the second half is so untrue because he killed the Bears week 1. I don't know what that means.
The Bears.
But yeah.
The Bears.
Sorry, Sir Charles, but you don't get a cookie for that one. The youth was the problem. Receivers were running wrong routes. False starts didn't help. Yeah, all right. They were taking time to jive, but, beating the Bears, I know they're your rivals, but it's like us getting excited about beating up on the Giants. They clicked in the second half and beat the Chargers, Chiefs, Lions, and Dallas. Now, listen, again, we beat the Chiefs too. Okay? Yeah, we beat Dallas.
Beat the Bills?
We beat the Bills. We beat the Chiefs. We beat Dallas one time. We didn't play the Lions. But, I get it. It's all about when you hit certain teams too. I'm not sitting there saying Jordan Love can't be a great player. I think there's more of a chance that he is than he isn't. But I'm just saying, giving him these big contracts, anointing him the next big thing like people have been is a little premature. And you know that. I know that. Anybody knows that. Joe, you say it yourself. Most football players need a good 3 years of play time. I know he's already on his third year. But 3 years of, legitimate starting time. Quarterbacks, I know, a little...
he was behind Aaron Rodgers for a couple of seasons, so I don't look at it as an actual third year already.
No, but what I'm saying is, before you can anoint them a really great quarterback, good quarterback, I'm just saying, let's put the oils away before we start anointing anybody the next big thing. We lost to the Giants and Seahawks. Yes, we did. Absolutely. You know what I mean? It was. I mean, I'll be honest with you, Marshawn. I know you were watching last year. If you remember, I was actually going into the playoffs, hoping they lost. I did not want to see this Eagles team win that playoff game. Did not want to give any credence to the way that team has played. I didn't want to give any credence to Howie and any of them for how they put the team together, how they picked the coaching staff. We were a bad team. We went from, winning. Not always pretty, but winning, but win's a win. But my point is that things can happen differently. And that's why I'm telling them, Jordan Love wasn't great. The whole team wasn't great the first half of the season. So that's my point is it's not a narrative. It's true. They weren't great. Yes, it doesn't help when the other team members are doing it, but Jordan Love wasn't knocking the doors off, blowing the doors off anyone, except for the Bears, of course. The Bears suck. Just throw it out there. And I'm not even on high on the Bears at this point, like everybody else is. Between them and Atlanta Falcons, and everybody just loves how these guys are going to be this year. Let's wait and see.
Are we forgetting that the Bears had the number 1 overall pick in the draft this past season? There's a reason why they had the number 1 overall draft pick this past season in the draft.
I believe the Eagles are going to get to Jordan Love because they're not going to have the running game, which will favor the Eagles with Love passing, I believe, around 35 attempts, which will bode well for Love. Yeah, like I said, like this isn't an easy game to call. I always say the two hardest games to predict are the first and last game of any season, just because of the unpredictability of it. But like I said, if the Eagles lose, the Eagles win. I won't be surprised either way. Now, I'll be surprised if it happens and they get shellacked. I'll be surprised that way. But like I said, I'm just saying like people pump the brakes on like Caleb Williams being like and the Chicago Bears being this awesome huge team. Like that division got a lot better with Green Bay, them, and the Lions. So you got a lot of competition in a division that was usually pretty much one-sided. Green Bay. Vikings had some years that were decent. Again, people they're annoying Atlanta because Kirk Cousins is at the helm, and they've gotten some other key pieces. Give it time. Let's see where it goes. Like, and I know Al, you hate Kirk Cousins. I don't hate Kirk Cousins. I just know he's a freaking fraud. That's all. He's a fraud, though. He's a fraud.
No, I'm saying you're sitting here saying that you don't hate Kirk Cousins. You're full of crap.
I just don't get it. He's in a way just a better version of Sam Bradford to me. A guy who keeps getting paid for mediocrity, except Kirk Cousins doesn't get hurt as much.
I actually think he's a lot better than you give him credit for it. And I want you to think of this.
Okay.
See what Minnesota does this season. They're still going to have Justin Jefferson. They now have Aaron Jones. I mean, and now they have Sam Darnold because J.J. McCarthy gets hurt. Kirk Cousins is now out. I want you to see what they do still with those, arguably the best receiver in the game. I want you to see what that team does this year without Kirk Cousins.
No, and here's my thing is I said this. Mediocrity. I didn't say he sucked and they're going to be like 4 and whatever, 4 and 13. They're in a bad division, first of all. Let's just throw that out there. That's the NFC South's not a great division.
I think we could all agree that the Packers are going to win that division, though, right?
What do you mean? Oh no, I'm not going to say that. It could be the Lions too. The Lions are a good team.
Crap, I forgot about the Lions. I don't know how I forgot about the Lions, but I forgot.
But
I was just thinking of the Bears and Minnesota. But yeah, you're right. Yeah. No, forget that. The Lions got that shit wrapped up.
Yeah, but I'm saying is like that's a good division now. That's a really tough division. I mean, Green Bay is becoming a lot better team. The Bears are taking the right step forward. We'll see what they have if they have it this year. Lions, we know what they are. We've seen them already. Even Jared Goff has pleasantly surprised me. The Falcons will probably win between them and the Saints, but most likely them, just because of how weak that division is. I mean, Carolina I don't see them being any better. Tampa Bay, 8. I mean, they're all meandering 800 or 500 teams, right? That's what they are. Is he the best of mediocrity? So yeah, maybe he'll make the playoffs that way. But we all know. Do you think Kirk Cousins and the numbers are there? I'm not making this up. He can have games. We saw him like against the Vikings in Dallas. He just like destroyed Dallas, who had like this amazing defense. But then he S's the bed against good teams or not so good teams in primetime moments. I mean, again, I kind of feel bad for him. He has to come back week 2, primetime Philadelphia. I mean, it's like the NFL they're testing the limits. That's my thing is like, I'm not saying he's the worst. He's a great stat patter. He's great for any fantasy football team, especially if you have a 2 QB league. But other than that, he's mediocre.
Tell me if I'm wrong on this.
All right.
Is this the 3rd year in a row it's been Kirk Cousins versus the Eagles on Monday Night Football the second week of the year? Holy crap.
I'm not sure if it's always been the second, but it's around that.
I'm pretty sure it's always been the second week. That's unbelievable.
I'll have to look it up later. I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Or if somebody out there can look that up for us.
But it's usually a primetime Thursday night or a Monday night game or a Sunday night game. I know, usually Monday or Thursday night. And it's early on in the season. Yes, you're absolutely right. Marshawn's like, beating the Bears in week 1 is like bragging about getting with a streetwalker. 3 years in a row in week 2. Yep.
Unreal.
Right, and like, what's he 0-3, right? I mean, like it's
he will be.
The only time I actually really thought Kirk Cousins was like, I'm like, okay, all right, when he was playing with Washington, because they didn't have a great team, they had a mediocre team, and he looked good.
Washington has never known what they were doing. Kirk Cousins got drafted the same draft that RG3 got drafted at 1 or 2 or whatever in the same draft.
Yeah.
Washington had no idea what the hell they were doing with quarterbacks that they took 2 in the same draft.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, like, you're absolutely correct. But my point is, he's not a terrible quarterback, but he ain't great, and he ain't gonna lead any team to the Super Bowl. I mean, they literally got their next quarterback first round. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's true.
and also it's Atlanta. Atlanta is a fledgling organization. Sorry, not a good organization. They make bad business decisions. They grab guys. They're not unlike the Giants in some ways as of recently. Like
Matty Ice had a pretty good career down there. So did Michael Vick.
He had a mediocre career. He had all right, not mediocre. I'll give him a little bit above mediocre. But ever since he
has to bet in the Super Bowl. I mean, you can't
Joe,
not talk about that.
Sorry, you say S the bed. That's like, all right, everybody S's the bed here and there. That is the biggest bed essing of all time. That has to be the worst beat. Tell me that's not the worst beat in any sports.
It has to be.
I can't think of it. If anybody else in the comments, while we have a few more minutes here, can think about something that was a worse beat than the Falcons and Matt Ryan blowing a 24-point lead to now listen, I understand it's Tommy Terrific. You know, the great Tom Brady, the GOAT. I get that. But that should have never happened. You should have just cruised to the end. You literally could have never scored another point and won that game if you just let your defense cruise and just chipped away and ran the ball for the second half of the game. Like that, I know it would have been a sexy, but you still probably would have a Super Bowl ring.
Still would have won.
Yeah. So my point is, I get what you're saying, and he has not been the same ever since.
No.
Matt Ryan. I think that destroyed him, to be honest with you, Matt Ryan. Like,
how could it not?
I mean, I don't blame him, but am I getting the clown? Are we the clowns? Are you clowning us? Am I here to make you laugh? Am I amusing
Doesn't matter.
to you? I just want
Doesn't matter.
I was doing my Joe Pesci.
I know, I got you.
But Joe, what is your right now? What is your call? What is this final score of the Philadelphia Eagles in Brazil versus the Green Bay Packers?
I know what I want my Eagles score to be. I'm thinking about the pack. You know what? I'm just gonna be 24-17. Eagles.
Okay, so you're like me. You don't expect to be super high, like some people are 30 plus points.
No, I was between 13 and 17 for the Packers, but I'll go respectful and say 17.
Yeah, like I said, I think they both get close to 20, but it'll be about a 3-point swing. So 24-21, 20-24, something like there in that range. Like I said, I expect both teams to kind of make mistakes in that first half. That's why you're not going to have a more than maybe 10 points higher, a 10-point score in the first half. So it's going to be who makes less mistakes. I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into this. First game of the season. You got new coordinators for the Eagles. You got a whole new climate, Joe. A whole new, like you said, you have all those the air quality is crap down there right now. Like a whole new stadium, a whole new grass, everything's different. So there's so many circumstances that go with it. That's again what keeps me keeping the score low. I mean, then again, you can say, hey, Al, look at that snowball with McCoy how many years ago, and that guy scored set a franchise record in 8 feet of snow. So
yeah,
that makes a difference.
That was unreal.
Go thin at RB and tight end, or GB thin at RB and tight end. Yeah, Rob, we kind of were just talking about that. But again, I'm expecting more mistakes than anything. Go Packers. Anthony saying 31-21. And that's right. You're a Packers and a Mets fan. You I think, right? You're scratching my head a little bit. Angry Andy, he loves. I don't get it. Love him to death, though. But other than that, guys, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. Remind you that this show is brought to you by Philly Sports Trips, man. Like we said, they're down in Brazil right now. big one that we have coming up that we're working with them is this one right here. Going up to New York, Saquon Barkley returns to the MetLife Stadium, returns to the Meadowland, returns to New Jersey to take on his old team. So why not go in style? Go with Philly Sports Trips. Sign up now. The price you can't beat. I mean, for what you would pay for a decent ticket at the Lincoln parking, you can go ticket, bus, food, drink, awesomeness. Come on out. Join EoP. Join the EoP bus. If you sign up, organizer put either EoP or EoP bus or Edge of Philly, whatever it is for you to remember. And then you can get on the bus with us and go up to New York. We're going to be out there with you. So come on out. Go to phillysportstrips.com. And if not, sign up for one of the many other options out there as well. Go to phillysportstrips.com. Guys, remember, Phil's back tomorrow in the morning with Trending in the AM. Every morning here, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. So check it out. Here is your lineup for the rest of the week. Tomorrow, like I said, Trending AM, football stories, Fly Like an Eagle. Steel Steps will be tomorrow at 9 p.m. due to the Eagles game being on a Friday, so we moved everything around. There'll still be Phillies post-game shows throughout the weekend, as well as Eagles halftime and post-game shows. Attacking Third, p.m. in the a.m., Party on Broad and all across all the time, and so much more. So check it out, guys. I'm Big Al.
And I'm Joe Shear.
And we out.